If you know where I come from, you know what an opportunity this is, Mr. President.
Senator Hamilton, you're recognized for debate on the Joint Committee Report for House Bill 4455.
Thank you, Mr. President. And despite my obvious no vote on this, I do have to give credit to the author for the immense amount of work that he has obviously put into this measure, and for his efforts to try to do something that is good for Oklahoma. I'm a no on this for a couple of reasons, and the first of which is because I believe that while oftentimes we can do something, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should do something. And so what we see right now, if we look back to what Thomas Jefferson wrote in our Declaration of Independence, he says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So the whole purpose of government is to secure the rights of the individual. Now, it may be a good thing to stimulate the economy and bring business and so on and so forth, but that's not the function of government, at least according to Thomas Jefferson in our Declaration of Independence. It's also not the function of government in accordance with Romans 13. What we also see here is that what we're doing is taking somewhere north of $750 million of we the people of Oklahoma's money, spending it to bring in a company that we don't know where they're from, and we don't know what their values are, but we know that they have enough money to spend $3,606 million here in Oklahoma. But in order to get them here to spend their money, we have to do something, and that is that we have to pay people to come here with we the people's money. And where does that money come from? It comes from people who pay taxes. And we all know that the tax laws are written with loophole after loophole after loophole that benefit those with the gold. Like my mother's fond of saying, those with the gold make the rules. That's the golden rule. And that doesn't make them bad people for taking advantage of the rules that have been written. I mean, in the words of President Trump, that makes me smart. But I'll add this. Proverbs chapter 22 says, "He that oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he that gives to the rich shall surely come to ruin." I submit that if you've got $3,606 million, you've crested the threshold from the middle to the upper class. And that begs the question of why do we have to pay someone to come here? What's wrong with us that we've got to bribe somebody to bring their business to Oklahoma? There's nothing wrong with us. Or is there? I received a report from the state chamber with all the states that are enacting policies to bring big business to their state. And notably absent from that list of who we're competing with was Florida. Policies that they've instituted in Florida against vaccine mandates and for individual liberty have resulted in roughly 3,000 people a day moving to Florida. When you've got 3,000 people a day moving to your state, and that doesn't count the Chinese communist dope growers, when you've got 3,000 people a day moving to your state, you don't have to bribe big business to come in. They just come in because they want some of that money that the 3,000 people a day that move to your state are spending. We've heard the plug for the mega businesses. Well, I'm a believer in the old song that you got to dance with who brung you. We levy tax after tax after tax on oil and gas companies. What are we doing for agriculture? That's who built Oklahoma. Agriculture, oil and gas, timber. What are we doing to help them? Small businesses. So if you bring 500 jobs to the state, you get X number of dollars. What if you bring 5? Why not? Why not give 1% of what the 500 gets to the guy that brings 5? I believe that this is the personification of government interference in private business. And I'll quote from the Republican Party platform, page 14. We believe that Oklahoma's efforts to attract industry should be grounded upon the establishment of a favorable and friendly economic climate rather than upon tax and other governmental subsidies to individual businesses. And I would add, especially businesses that can afford to write a check for $3.6 billion. We don't know who this company is. In the meeting that I referred to earlier, we heard the guy, I don't know what foreign accent he's got, but he ain't from around here. He talked about ESGs. Really? We want to spend $800 million of we the people of Oklahoma's money to bring in somebody that's going to talk about social credits and carbon credits and ESGs, and it defies credulity. I said earlier about the state question. We're putting things to a vote of the people instead of answering these tough questions here in this body, which is our job to do, on what Thomas Jefferson called a self-evident truth. What that means is we don't have the authority to legislate on those things. Instead, we're going to spend $750 million of we the people of Oklahoma's money, and now suddenly we're going to man up and tackle the tough questions ourselves in here instead of putting it before a vote of the people. We heard something about oversight. That's what we do here. We oversee things. But I submit to you that it would be a better plan to not create a situation that we'll have to oversee, where we're taking money from we the people that we all know and giving it to somebody that we don't know. Somebody who quite possibly is not even a U.S. company. Somebody who quite possibly has policies that run directly counter to the pieces of legislation that we have passed within this chamber in the last 2 years since I've been here. I think we do know who this is, but if we don't, we need to absolutely put some safeguards around this. And we need to ensure that before we bring the money in, that we bring in somebody who fits in Oklahoma, somebody who shares our values. I yield.
Senator Coleman presiding.
Senator Boren, you're recognized for debate